Hello and welcome to Redefining the Significance of You, Time for You, by You, because of You. My name is Denise Drinkwalter, and I'm an empowerment life coach supporting women around the world to lean into and realize the importance of you. The goal of this channel is to provide you, the viewer, with some takeaways that will help you shift, reevaluate, change, and or become aware of what is possible. We have a variety of guests who will be sharing their life experiences that have helped them become the incredible human beings that they are today. And today's guest is no exception to that. We are so excited to have Mary Ann Hughes with us here today. And I am sure there have been times in your life or I know in my life for sure, where we have had free time and we felt guilty or embarrassed or wrong for taking out that time for ourselves. And Mary Ann and I are here to help change that, to show you what is possible for you when you take time for you, by you, because of you. It is such an honor and a privilege to have you here today, Mary Ann, to the show. Mary Ann is a special needs divorce coach, and she helps families figure out how to navigate divorce successfully, helping them with the overwhelm and complexities of special needs divorce. Mary Ann found herself very unexpectedly facing divorce several years ago and spent incredible amounts of time, money, and effort trying to figure out how to navigate divorce successfully while trying to get the best outcome for her two sons who are on the autism spectrum. She has been a special needs divorce coach for over 2 years and has worked with dozens of families and impacts thousands through her social media outreach. Mary Ann helps her clients before, during, and after divorce, giving support, guidance, confidence, and knowledge that they need to successfully advocate for themselves and their children with special needs. Oh my goodness. I bet you don't have time to sleep. I can't imagine how many people are in need of your services, Mary Ann.
Yeah, thank you, Denise. It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate being on your show. And yes, it is difficult sometimes to find time to sleep. But as you mentioned at the beginning, we've got to make time for ourselves. And if we don't, then we can't take care of ourselves or our children or get a good result for our families. So I used to not be one who put myself first. But I learned through my process that if we don't fill ourselves up first, we can't help others. And so that's very key. I make time for sleep. Granted, sometimes it doesn't work out as planned, but that is something that's I see makes a big difference in
Right?
how we proceed with our day for sure.
Yeah. So what types of things do you have that you can share with parents so that they do find and or create and or make time for themselves? Because like you say, I've heard it multiple times, you can't give from an empty cup, right? You got to fill your cup first. How in the world is that even possible with all the balls and everything people are going through, having to experience, unfortunately, the throes of a divorce?
Right, because as a special needs mom, caregiver burnout is so common, even if you're not going through divorce. And so I'm in a
Yeah.
group right now. We're having a caregiver burnout series, and we're there to support each other, learn from each other, and have support systems in place and events that we attend. But part of that is just looking at the little things we do each day to figure out how can we track what we're doing and maybe think about one thing that we can do differently each day. Maybe just have an extra cup of coffee, have time to relax, special, even if it's not just me time by yourself, just go out for a walk, maybe by yourself or with your family, and just enjoy nature. Just do something a little bit different each day that gives you a little bit more pep, I guess, than you might normally have. Because, yeah, the day-to-day challenges can certainly bring us I'll say bring us down, but definitely can take its toll when we don't have anything to recharge us. So I know, for years and years, I didn't take care of myself. I put my children, everything else first, and I
Mhm.
suffered, and my marriage suffered, and my family suffered. And I don't want other people to go through what I did. I mean, granted, people get divorced, and with special needs families, there's a very high rate of divorce. And part of that is because perhaps we're not taking care of ourselves like we, should be or could be. So there's lots of reasons for divorce. I'm not going to, no one's, to blame, or we don't want to blame ourselves. That's not my intent to say that. But just know that we want to balance everything and be there for our kids. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we're not doing the best we can for our kids.
Yeah, it's so counterintuitive, isn't it? Because like you shared, the kids need us, they're regular kids, whatever that is anymore, right? Like our families need us, and as tend to be the primary caregivers just because of the nature of who we are, and moms just seeming to automatically fall into that capacity. And it's because we want to most often, right? It's not because there's a have to. But when we do all of that, we leave ourselves out of that picture in terms of self care, right? I love what you said about community and group support. I love that. Is that something that you find that people that you work with find it super beneficial as well when they start working with you? Is that like even just having somebody there to help, like you said, you guide, you've got the knowledge, you've had the experience, you have the skills to be able to support parents through this journey, right?
Right, for sure. Because when you're in the throes of it, you can't have a third party perspective, and you've got too much going on to look at in a rational way, as opposed to the emotional side taking over. And so by having someone like me, or finding groups, or finding resources that you offer to help you explore the different things that you could be doing, maybe doing things differently, giving some ideas that maybe you wouldn't have thought of, because you're so busy with everything that you've got to get done each day. And so I think it helps to have another perspective, someone to talk through the issues with, and maybe in talking them through with somebody, they can give you some ideas as to maybe how to do things a little bit differently. Recognize that, yeah, there are supports out there. I know when I went through divorce, I didn't know who to reach out to. I didn't know there were coaches back then. And so I kind of binge watched YouTube where people were giving advice and were giving motivation and trying to explore the reasons for maybe why someone's acting a certain way. And also, but I think the most important part is the self-development in terms of what can we learn through this process, and how can we do a better job for ourselves and for our family, and what do we need to know to make things happen in a productive way.
I really like what you just shared there, making things happen in a productive way. So it is about the learning, right? What can I do differently? And it might be something very simple. Do you find that? It could be a simple tweak.
For sure, for sure. Because yeah, when I before I went through my divorce, I wasn't taking care of myself, physically. For instance, I wasn't exercising, maybe I wasn't eating well, and over the years, it kind of builds upon itself, right? And
Yeah.
so I didn't feel like, oh, I don't have time to go work out. I don't have time to make time. How do I find the day? How to find time in my day to make that happen. Well, as when the divorce started happening, I'm like, well, obviously my old way of doing things wasn't working. And so then I
Mhm.
started taking better care of myself. And then I started feeling better about myself. And then my kids could see that too. Because throughout my process, I've got two sons on the autism spectrum and different ends of the spectrum. And the one who's higher functioning, it would say to me, "Mommy, you're like a different person now." And so to me, that's like the biggest reward of all this is being a role model for our kids, for those that we're around, that we can touch and have them learn from us. So that's the biggest thing that I can share is for my kids and to others, is to teach your kids to advocate, but also advocate for yourself. And I think whether it's in divorce, whether it's your day-to-day life, making time for yourself, I think that's just so important.
Modeling, modeling without even realizing the impact until your son was verbalizing that back to you. Isn't that amazing? Wow. That is because that's a life skill, right?
It is. It is.
And just by you taking that ownership and going, you know what? I am important. And you were doing enough of it that you were actually recognizing and seeing the difference as you gave back to yourself, right?
Right. Definitely.
Was that a huge shift for you in terms of starting to give back to yourself? Was that hard in the beginning?
It was very hard. I felt guilty in the past. That's why I
Yeah,
didn't do it. Right. It's like, oh, I've got so many things I've got to do, whether it's prepare for teacher meetings or, do extra therapy for my kids or be there, watch them play, whatever it might be. Right. Because the truth is, yeah, you need to be there. You need to provide structure and guidance for them. But sometimes they need to learn how to do things on their own. And I think I've seen too many people try to be there 24 hours a day, round the clock, trying to make sure that nothing bad happens. And granted, we don't want anyone to be in any kind of physical danger, but kids kind of learn by doing. And so I think um, I can't speak for all moms, but I know I had a tendency to kind of overprotect. And so sometimes we need to let them find ways to let them entertain themselves, find ways to learn on their own. And so, that's an example. Recently, my one who's more involved, I used to maybe do maybe too many chores for him, but through
yeah,
his program at school, they've learned, okay, well, you've got to clean up after yourself, you got to do these things, and now he gets mad if I do his tasks, right? So now he enjoys loading the dishwasher every day. He asks, when is laundry day, basically, because that's his thing now. And so, granted, it takes more time,
yeah,
but it's a skill that he's developing, and in a way, it offloads me. Granted, I'm still there overseeing, but it's
right.
something that he's learned, a skill that's important for him in the future, um, to help me whether or not he continues, hit the direction that he's in. So yeah, so I
Right.
think just little things like that to give them a sense of ownership too for things that they can do. Sometimes that helps develop their self-esteem by saying, okay, well, I can do this, and I don't need you doing it for me. So that was a learning experience as well.
I love what you are saying because I find, in particular, as moms, we want them to be able to do, but it's so much easier to step in and just do it.
Exactly.
You've got it in your right. You've got it in your mind. Isn't that a powerful impact that he had? No, that's my job. Don't take that job from me. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Right? So
Mhm.
when you give that capacity, when you see, so is that the type of work that you help parents do in your coaching? Is that kind of stuff?
Um,
Or
yeah, that's a good question. So specifically, I haven't done that type of coaching, but maybe in the future. But I do try to take the kids' needs into account when I coach my clients, and suggest ways or think about ways together that we can help them help their kids. So definitely that comes into play. And so most
right,
of my work is coaching women who are going through divorce to, like you said, to advocate for themselves and for their kids and how to do that. And sometimes it's a mindset shift as part of it that they can do it, right? Because of whatever's happened in the past, maybe they haven't had to do those kind of things for themselves
right.
or don't know how to do it. Special needs divorce can be so complicated for many reasons that we won't get into today, but there's a lot of
Sure.
things to know. And so I help them kind of find resources and connect with things that can help them. And also, as we are discussing, we find ways that we can make a plan to get to our goal. I think the important thing is having a goal and working to create steps and follow through so that we
Mm,
do end up, good result. End of the day, in divorce and also past divorce. That's a big part of my focus as well. Is what are we going to do? After the divorce happens, it's a finite process, and we want to see, okay, beyond that, how are we setting ourselves up for success, uh, for ourselves and for our kids in the future. But yeah, part of it is definitely how do we help our kids and help ourselves to be successful.
I really, really like how you are on that journey with your clients before, during, and after. That is, I am sure, so, so valued by your clients because when everything's over, I can only imagine there's like, okay, but just knowing that you are still available for that support afterwards. And I love what you're saying, setting those goals so you have a target point. So you're not just floundering day by day, but you've got something that you're reaching towards. And I'm curious, is it little tiny? I mean, I'm sure all of them are different, but is it, how do you bridge to get to those goals? Are they tiny steps? Are they actionable? Like, how does that kind of work? Just general, of course.
Sure. Well, usually there's a big goal that we want to work towards, which can be overwhelming because there's so many things you have to get done in divorce or raising kids or whatever it might be. But the important thing to get through the overwhelm is, like you said, to break it down to smaller goals, actionable steps. So that way we can see, okay, well, we have made progress. Even if it's a tiny bit of progress each day, we've done something that we didn't
Yeah,
have yesterday. And so I think that by recognizing those wins, I think that helps a lot by because sometimes we do so many things per day, but we don't realize how far we've come. I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm a different person than I was a year ago, but it didn't happen overnight. Every
yeah,
day I did something I learned something. I find a way to better myself. Connecting with people like you, for instance, I learn every day. I learn from somebody and learn something that can help me in my day to day and in the future.
I love what you're saying there in terms of, even just recognizing, because we go through life, right? Like a treadmill. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And we don't even realize all of the things that we have created, done, successfully accomplished,
Mhm.
because we don't take the time to celebrate that. So I love that you do that. I love that you help show those wins. Something I do a lot with my clients too is we talk about celebrations. And they do not have to be big. It's not like the big end goal. We celebrate even if it's a one mind shift, huge, right? Yeah. What are some ways that we can support ourselves and our neurodiverse children when getting divorced?
Yeah. So as we talked about, make sure that we put ourselves a priority, take care of ourselves so we can make better decisions in divorce, but know that our kids are always looking at us to be that role model. And so by um, not speaking ill of the other parent, for
Yeah.
instance, we don't want to have divorce discussions in front of them, even if it's not about the other party, but if it's talking, to the lawyers or so on. Those are adult kind of things, and the kids don't need to be around when we're having those kind of discussions. And granted, this can be stressful experience, and so we want to find ways to release that stress and not have our kids, see that. I mean, granted, we can have discussions about divorce and the changes that are going on in our lives and how things are going to be different. And that's one thing I had to I struggled with when I was going through divorce, and now I share things that worked
Mhm.
for me. Is the biggest thing that I had to face was how do I support my kids so that they don't suffer through the process or minimize that,
Right.
right? Come out the other side, along with me in a better way. And so the way I found to do that, because it was really hard to find professionals who were able or willing to work with somebody who was so involved, like one of my kids, who couldn't really
Yeah.
have a conversation or have any therapy, things like that. In terms of
Yeah.
with the psychologist, nobody would say that it was not going to help. So I had to go to find a special needs minister at a church. I said, I need some help. Who can help me to help my kids? I was really trying to find different creative ways to do that. He said, Mary Ann, it's up to you. You've got to figure out how to help your kids. And so I thought about it. It's like, how did I help them through the years when we had something new and different happening in our lives? And so what I created for my kids, both of them really, and I've done it over the years when we had some new things that we're trying to get ready
Yeah.
for, like vacations when they didn't know what to expect, so I could try to ease that
Yes.
transition, as we call it, a social story. People in the
Right.
autism world may know what that is, but um, it's a it can be very simple with like pictures, or it can be with words, but something to explain what is happening so that they can know what to expect. The transitions are going to happen, what a daily schedule might look like, and at the end of the day, know it'll be okay. So I create a social story for my kids. at the beginning of the process and in a very positive tone. Said, Mom and Dad love you very much, but we're going through some changes. You're going to be staying at a new place sometimes. I got pictures of all of us, as well as what the new place would look like that they were going to be going to, because that was scary for me and for them, because I've never been away from Mom, and wanted to try to make them more comfortable with that situation. And so, having that guide there really helped them. And the school was very good in terms of helping to read that to my son right before that big change happened in our lives, in terms of having them go to dad's for the first time. So, and I even did a video about it. It's on my YouTube channel for people who want to look up how to do that and get some ideas for that. So I find things like that, just figure out where the kids are, what they need, and how you can best help them through. So the conversation you may have with someone who's 2 or 3 versus someone who's in their teens is going to look different, but it's still the same concept in terms of you want to be supportive. You want to show them that you're always there for them, hopefully get the other party on board as well, to have the same expectations in each house and different ways that you're going to help, so they know that both parents are there for them and support them and love them, even if we're not all living together.
Exactly. Yeah. You did a really great job explaining that so that it really makes sense, and just helping them understand the process the best way that is available for them to be able to access the details. I love social stories. They're so, so beneficial. Yeah. So your YouTube channel, they can go and check that out.
For sure.
And we will put these types of things in the show notes. So your YouTube channel and other social media that you have, we will put those in the bottom of the show notes. And people can find you, and we will put this in the show notes as well. They can find you at www.specialfamilytransitions.com. Again, we'll put that in the show notes. Is there anything else that you would absolutely love our listeners to know about, or have a seed of something that you would love to drop at the end here before we say our goodbyes? Is there anything coming up for you?
So I appreciate that. Definitely know that you can do this. You're stronger than you know. If you've raised special needs kids, you are strong, and you can do it, and do it for you and do it for them. And so that everybody comes out with a good result, even if it's not the life you anticipated or thought you would have. It's still the life that we have, and we want to make that as good as we can. And I know I've come a long way. My kids have come a long way. And so there's hope for everyone out there. Divorce is not just an end. It's also a new beginning to great things that can happen to you in the future. I do have a little course I put together for people who are kind of still struggling. I have plenty of free resources on my social media for those that kind of want my highlight of the tips of things that I learned through my process, as well as of being a coach. I've got something really very low price point, real short, only takes an hour to go through. I think that can be a helpful resource as well.
Beautiful. We'll put that in the show notes as well, I'm sure. So that's amazing. I'm so glad that you are taking your learning and helping other families because of your experience. Knowing there wasn't much available that you could find, you've created something. So thank you for the work that you are doing. Many, many people will be able to find you with all the resources we are sharing. And for those of you who are not subscribed to our channel, make sure you subscribe, because every week we have a brand new guest. And I also have a deep desire, and I'm on a mission to change lives and help make a difference for moms and parents. So if you have any questions at all, just drop me a line. You can find me at DeniseDrinkwalter.com. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you. Love you and your work.
Thank you.